everyone in the lecture number 36 for the political science. Okay, so in this lecture we are going to discuss about a special marriage act. In the previous session we have discussed about that uniform civil code, the points against the uniform civil code, points in the favor of the uniform civil code. We have discussed all the aspects. Okay, now we are going to discuss about the special marriage act. Okay, this is this all topics that we have discussed is included under the DPSP section itself. Okay, so now the special marriage act. So within the Indian constitution, is it like the provision has been given that even if you are of a different caste and religion, you can have a marriage with that. Okay, regarding that aspect only this special marriage act was there, and it was passed in 1954. Okay, and it was implemented in 1955. Okay, now if two religion, what it tells that if two religion, okay, if two religion and these two religion should be different, that if two different religion wants to conduct marriage and their couple don't want to change their religion, so they can do by a special marriage act. What it tells that if you want to marry a person who is from a different religion and marrying to that person, in that case you don't want to change your religion also, so for that we have a something called a special marriage act. Okay, yes, marriage is allowed if two different religion is there within one section. You have to be converted into that religion. Let us suppose there is a Hindu boy and there is a Muslim girl. So if they want to go into the marriage, okay, so there can be the scenario that Hindu boy should be converted into Muslim. Hindu boy should be converted into the Muslim. Okay, or Muslim girl should have to be converted into Hindu. Okay, that is allowed within the religion also. The priest and all who are involved under this, they are allowed to do so, that you have to be converted into that religion, then you can do so. But in the scenario that you don't want to change your religion, so in that case, that even after the marriage you want to practice your religion, so in that case we have a provision under the Special Marriage Act. This can be done through the Special Marriage Act. Okay, so it facilitates inter-religious marriages. It facilitates inter-religious marriages, but it actually creates a huge hurdle. So there are many things that goes against the point why this act was made. Okay, right now it is looking very beautiful. Okay, but now there are many hurdles inside this act. Okay, and ultimately the hurdles that are present under this, the kind of hurdles that are present under it, this act has been converted into something called as a Khap Panchayat. Okay, this is working as a Khap Panchayat, and kind of that this kind of things is seen generally in Haryana. Okay, what is this thing? We'll see in detail. See, legally India has a clear route to inter-religious marriage through this Special Marriage Act 1954, under which a couple, no matter what their caste or religious background is, they can marry without any need of conversion. Okay, what was the background of this act? How why this act was brought up? We'll have to understand this one, then we'll understand the hurdles of it. Then we'll be able to understand what is the hurdle behind it. Okay. In the revolt for 1857, we know that revolt of 1857 is known as the first war of independence. Okay, we have discussed in this in the starting sessions of this political science lecture series. Okay, so in the revolt of 1857, religion was in danger. That's why revolt take place. And after that only British understood that if we want to rule over India, we should not touch religious stuffs. Okay, if we are touching religious stuffs, then in that case revolt will happen and we can be thrown out of the country. Okay, so they understood that religious things should not be present, and this revolt happened because of religious stuff only. Okay, the policies of East India Company was against the policies of religions, and they knew they are trying to convert everyone into Christianity. Then they came to know that religion should never be touched to rule in India. They understood that religion should never be touched to rule in India. Before this revolt only, sati was, because what happened before this revolt? Sati was removed. Before this revolt, sati was removed by Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Widows remarriage act was passed. Okay, so this act of this one, what I tell, I'm just forgetting. This Indian Council Act and all were brought up during that period only. Okay, so in the 1872, in the Act of 1872, inter-religion made allowed in the act, but after that you have to be renounce your religion. Okay, that was there. So in this Act 1872, inter-religion made allowed. Okay, in the act, but after that you have to renounce your religion. That you have to renounce your religion. Okay, so at that time, so British, the revolt happened, but because of the evil practices that were going in the society, so Britishers tried to improve slightly, but by with more care, they tried to do so. So within that one act that they chose, that inter-religion should be allowed. Okay, and that you have to renounce your religion after that. Okay, okay, renouncing means like formally declare that abandonment of anything and all. Okay, that that you no longer want to have something to be conducted without the religion and all, that you don't need to declare your religions and all. Okay, that you have to renounce your religion. Now that you have to come out of your religion like that. So that concept came into being played at the time. Okay, that you are no longer want to be any part of the religion. In that way, inter-religion will be allowed. Okay, now Raja Ram Mohan Roy's policies of not interfering in the personal and religious life of Indians. So there was that introduction of clause given that Hindu women the right to divorce by Raj policies was introduced under it. Okay, and when the constitution was enacted, so these kind of things were happened in the past, that religious steps were taken place. That is not important, just I have given a small brief introduction that we have discussed in detail in the starting of the lecture, and in the history section we will discuss those things in detail. Okay, so currently just take info that these things were being taken from the before independence itself by many socialists, like the Raja Ram Mohan Roy itself were against the many things except, and yes, he was the one prominent person who removed sati and widow remarriage act and all. Okay, now when the constitution was enacted, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, when constitution was enacted, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru and B.R. Ambedkar, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru and B.R. Ambedkar, steps were taken to reform Hindu personal law. They together came up to reform Hindu personal law. Opposition and even Congress members were against this thing that was going to reform and all. Like what happened today, like whenever we talk about the uniform civil code, then Muslim personal law people used to come and they start to raise voice against such kind of things. So similarly, when this Hindu personal law was getting amended and all, so in that thing multiple voices were raised against them. The opposition of the bills was so huge, the opposition that they raised was against so huge that B.R. Ambedkar ultimately resigned from his position. The voice raised was so high that he resigned. He resigned from his position. This bill gave right to divorce to a woman. Orthodox Hindus said that our whole society will collapse if women has been given a right to divorce. Okay, if that kind of divorce we are giving to the women, our whole society will be collapsed. Women were right to ancestral property was given, right to intercourse religious marriage was allowed and all. Okay, so to get bill passed, as Congress party was also against it, that if Congress passed in the favor of this list of this bill, then it was good, then it was easy to pass this bill. But as this bill as the Congress itself were against this bill, Pandit Nehru added some of the clause in a Special Marriage Act which made it a Khap Panchayat, that even if this bill was going to be introduced, his members of his own party is not going to vote in the favor of this bill. So that's why, to make their own people satisfied, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru added some clause into this Special Marriage Act, so that this bill will be get passed. But the point that were added by him in the Special Marriage Act, that led him to completely as a Khap Panchayat. Okay, this actually what it has done, the act is there, but ultimately it is not giving any benefit to the society whoever want to use this kind of act. Okay, what is this? We'll see. So what is happening, what are the special things that were added into the Special Marriage Act? First thing is that this is something called as a concessions to the conservatives, concessions to the conservatives. The heading of this thing is that. Okay, first thing is that notice period, unlike other religious personnel, 1 month notice should be given, that when you are going to use the Special Marriage Act, that you are going to do a marriage into a different religion. Okay, and in that case you also don't want to change your religion, then you have to give a notice period. Notice period of how many days? It is of 1 month. That is one of the major drawback of this act. This is one of the major drawback. Let us suppose if 1 month period is given and you are giving a notice, so what will happen? Different thikedars of religions, like priest of Hindu and Qazis and all of Muslims, they will come. They will get ample amount of time to not allow this marriage to be done. Okay, they will get sufficient time. 1 month period is huge. Okay, so that is one of the major drawback of this act, that notice period is to be given, that should be 1 month prior to the marriage. The fact that exact location and date of the marriage is publicly known. When the notice period is filed, within this exact location where you are going to do a marriage, date, on which date you are going to do a marriage, okay, time, you have to tell everything publicly. What does this mean? That physical force can be easily be used to stop this ceremony. If you are, why someone is using this act, a special marriage act? Mainly in the sole purpose that happened, that the pandits and all, they don't allow to do different caste religious marriage. Okay, first they have to be converted into their religion, then the marriage will take place. Okay, that is the rule as per their religion. Okay, because of that only they are going with a special marriage act. But within the special marriage act, it is telling that you have to tell where you are going to do marry, when you are going to do marry, with whom you are going to do a marry, at what time you are going to do a marry, and you have to tell this publicly before 1 month, at least before 1 month of doing this act. What does this mean? That you are inviting those people, come and stop us by doing this thing. Okay, ultimately the sole purpose of this special marriage act is not going to be benefited, because you are giving ample amount of time to the physical force to come into the play. Okay, act stipulates that an application for marriage can be made only in a place where at least one of the party resides. Now another thing, that an application, this application of this marriage has to be filed at least in that place, at least one of the party resides, at least one of the parties reside. Let us, what is tell that, let us suppose Hindu girl, let us suppose boy and girl is there. Okay, boy and girl is there, so they have to file an application at least where they reside. Okay, either they can file a location in that place where boy resides, or they can file a application where the girl reside. Okay, so what does this meaning tell? That you are also doing this act at their place only. Okay, it is not case like you are going to utilize this act in some other place, like in Nepal or other country like USA and all. No. If you want to utilize this act should be done on the place where one of the person who is going to be married, of the one of the person resides. Okay, it means this act is telling that run away marriage is not possible. Ultimately this point is telling that run away marriage is not possible under this. Okay, now if either of the parties is not a permanent resident of the place, okay, let us suppose in the scenario that you don't have a permanent resident. Okay, both boy and girl both don't have a permanent residence of the place. The act says that the marriage offices has to inform the court in the district within whose limit that party is a permanent resident. Okay, so let us suppose a boy a girl live in a Delhi. Okay, both lives in a Delhi. Or let us suppose one girl live in a Haryana, and boy lives in a Delhi, and both belongs to a, let us suppose, from a region of Bihar. Okay, now what happens? This act tells that in that case the marriage court has to inform the court in the district. So let us suppose both girl and boy belongs to a Vaishali district of Bihar. So the marriage offices has to inform the court of Vaishali district that this party is going to be do a marriage. Okay, so what does it mean? It means that the marriage officers must send a letter to the permanent address of the parties, informing them that their son or daughter is about to do the unthinkable. Okay, that his son or daughter is going to do a marriage into a different religion, exercising his or her right to marry someone with her choosing, like that they are going to do a marry with their own will into the different religion. Okay, so see, in the starting how this special marriage act was looking very beautiful, but the concession, the point that has been added under the special marriage act, for which Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru requested to add, and after that only this act was passed, this made this special marriage act complete useless. Okay, first thing that you have to give a 1 month notice period. Within that 1 month notice period, you have to tell everything, whom you are going to marry, at what time you are going to marry, at which place you are going to do marry, and after that only you will be allowed to do so. Further, the application should be filed where one of the person must be residing at that place. If the both person is not residing, the residence is not permanent, in that case what will happen, wherever they will file application, that marriage office has to send that application to the court where one of the person resides, in the district of the one of the person resides. Ultimately it is telling that their parents or the priest or those personal laws people will get notified that these are the people who are going to do a marriage with a different religion. Okay, so in practice, therefore, by making sure that the parents as well as the case as community leaders are aware of the time, location and of the intent of the marriage will be in advance, the Indian state acts like a super Khap Panchayat by making sure that society decides whether the couple should get married or not. Okay, ultimately this whole special marriage is getting converted into Khap Panchayat. You made the act, but the condition that you have applied is ultimately not benefiting this act itself. Okay, that's why this special marriage act is not that much useful. Okay, so if a Hindu, which includes Sikh, Jain, Buddhist, marries a non-Hindu, so he or she cannot inherit ancestral property. Okay, that is one thing. If a Hindu, within the Hindu it includes Sikh, Jain, Buddhist, okay, if they married to non-Hindu, so that person, that whole, he and she both, that person will not inherit the ancestral property. Okay, and interestingly this provision apply only to the Hindus. See, and interestingly this concept is only applied to the Hindus. The law does not bother to punish to Muslims or Christians in a similar manner. It seems that while the Indian Republic hates the idea of interreligious marriage in general, one involving a Hindu give it a special hurt burn. Okay, so that's why sometimes the need of uniform civil code is there. So in the previous lecture we have discussed UCC, and in this lecture we have discussed Special Marriage Act, and within the Special Marriage Act we have seen that there is also a discrimination, that these concepts like ancestral property, inheritance and all is applied only to the Hindus. Muslims and Christians are not included under it. So that's why there multiple voice also has been raised for the uniform civil code, and we have discussed those things in detail in the previous session. Okay, so this was all about in the DPSP lecture. Our whole DPSP part 4 is completed. Okay, now we are going to we will be studying in the next session fundamental duties part 4A. Okay, this was all about in this lecture. I hope you have liked this. Please like and subscribe. This is a new channel. I really need your support. Please comment down if you have any doubt. Feel free to connect with me on my social media handle accounts. Thank you.